Hello, and welcome to this 9th part of the series, Death, Where is Your Sting? And I want to look now at the role of paradise. Luke 23:43. And he said to him, Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. This is Jesus talking to the criminal next to him on the cross. The timing of this statement is likely to be early afternoon, between midday and 3 p.m, with Jesus' final breath being probably about 3 p.m. Hence, there were possibly only maybe 3 hours of today left, as the Jewish day ends at sunset about 6 p.m. We can start by looking at Ephesians 4:6-9. When he ascended on high, he led a host of captives and he gave gifts to men. In saying he ascended, what does it mean but that he had also descended into the lower regions, the earth? Here, Paul is saying that Jesus ascended on high, not necessarily to heaven though, leading a host of captives. Paul then states that Jesus also descended into the lower regions, which is a euphemism for Sheol. Now, holding that thought, we now veer off to 1 Peter 3:18-19. For Christ, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit, in which he went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison. Now, Peter is saying that Christ had been put to death in the flesh, then made alive in the Spirit. While alive in the Spirit, Jesus proclaimed to the spirits in prison. Now, there's only one place where there are spirits in prison, and that is in Sheol. Elsewhere, spirits seem to be free to come and go. Whilst not a prison in the punitive sense that the Western mindset understands prison, Sheol is a place from which spirits and souls cannot depart until God so instructs. 1 Peter 4:6. For this is why the gospel was preached even to those who are dead. So Jesus preached to all the dead in Sheol, the good and the bad. And it can reasonably be assumed that the gospel preached was simply that Messiah had been crucified for the sins of all, and that ransom for sin had been paid in full by his shed blood. His perfect, once for all time sacrifice. For those in the good part of Sheol, they had been waiting for this moment since their deaths, that moment when they are clothed in the righteousness of Messiah. Now, going back to that Ephesians 4:8 verse above, when he ascended on high, he led a host of captives. It would seem that Jesus, having preached the gospel in Sheol, then led a host of these captives from that prison and took them on high, which connects back into what Jesus told the criminal on the cross, today you will be with me in paradise. So, just a quick recap on this stuff. Jesus went down into Sheol, and after preaching the gospel, collected all the inhabitants from the good place, in other words, those who acknowledged God. Jesus then led those captives, those inhabitants, on high. Connecting this concept with what he told the criminal on the cross, we can see that Jesus went down into Sheol, claimed the redeemed, then led them up to paradise. So my presumption is that Jesus did all this before nightfall on the day of his death, so as to ensure the completion of Luke 23:43's today. Notice too that there is no mention of any physical bodies being involved, so these people are still souls and spirits. So we can conclude from all this that the good place, Abraham's side, is now empty. From Jesus' promise to the criminal on the cross, today you will be with me in paradise. It is reasonable to suppose that when a Christian or saint dies, they do not go to Sheol. Instead, they go straight to paradise. As was stated earlier, paradise is not heaven. It is not the sort of full-time abode of God. Instead, it would appear to be a kind of waiting room for those saints awaiting the final judgment or pronouncement with the opening of the books. Now, some of these ideas can be backed up by a couple of other verses. In Psalm 49:15, but God will ransom my soul from the power of Sheol. Psalm 86:13, you have delivered my soul from the depths of Sheol. Both these verses make it clear that a person can be delivered or ransomed from Sheol. In the Psalm 49 verse, it is interesting that the word ransom is used, which is a word that implies that a price was paid for the release. And in Matthew 20:28, even as the Son of Man came to give his life as a ransom for many, is Jesus speaking to his disciples. So I wonder if he had Psalm 49:15 in mind when making that statement. Jesus himself implied that he would be going somewhere unusual. In John's Gospel, chapter 13, verses 33 to 36, where I am going you cannot come. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, where are you going? And Jesus answered him, where I am going you cannot follow me now, but you will follow afterward. So in these verses, Jesus, I believe, was alluding to his visit to Sheol and subsequently paradise. Then there was that final promise, but you will follow afterward. And that should resound to each and every believer. This is our hope. This is our promise. So all this means, I believe, that Christians and saints go straight to paradise until the resurrection. But not so those who either deny Jesus or are in active rebellion. As there is no mention of an alternative destination, it must be assumed that their destination prior to resurrection is still the pit or the bad place in Sheol. And remember, this is the place of torment, living with all the great burden of sin committed while in the physical body. So that concludes the 9th part of this series, Death, Where is Your Sting? Thank you for watching.